if that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, because you're talking about every single issue in your life can be taught in one of those arenas. So.
Right.
Welcome to the D3 Discipleship Podcast, a podcast about the language and tools that help to create a culture of intentional discipleship in your church. We are excited that you're joining us today and hope that you enjoy what you hear.
Well, hey everyone, and welcome back to the D3 Discipleship Podcast. My name is Ray, and alongside me is my co-host, Katie Ketzner.
Good morning.
The question asker extraordinaire.
Oh, that's
yes.
so sweet. I love being known as that.
Well,
Well, especially today, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, we are talking about one of our new tools.
New to
D3.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm still kind of learning it. So that's definitely going to be my role today is questions.
Now, before we jump into this, we have to have a conversation about Katie's outfit because it is a Christmas sweater and it's not even December yet.
Listen, because I woke up. It's been really nice. 70s.
It has.
It's what? Yeah. It's still mid-November right now.
Yes.
And I woke up and it's like this whole next week is going to be 30s and 40s and I'm mad.
And I'm currently 30 degrees.
You know what? Yes. If we're going to act like it's Christmas outside, I'm going to wear a Christmas sweater. And that was my whole thought process this morning. It was
if Mother Nature is going to do this to me, then Christmas it is, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not spiteful or,
No, it's great. I think it's great. I have a collection of ugly sweaters that my wife regularly does not want me to probably wear. So.
Did you just call my sweater ugly, Ray?
No. Oh, wow. That was not what I meant. Sorry. Christmas sweaters.
That's what I heard.
Go. Yes.
That's what all the other women listening heard, too.
Yes. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's not ugly. It's just Christmassy.
It's fine. It's whatever.
Those kind of go hand in hand, don't they?
I'm not even bothered.
Okay.
It's fine.
I'm sorry. Ouch. We'll discuss that later off camera. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That's not what I meant.
Well, since you're throwing bullets at people today.
Whoa.
Ray has a birthday this weekend, and he's turning a good old age.
Yep, 20.
Oh, I was like, is he going to say how old?
No, yeah, 40. 40 this week.
Ray's hitting a milestone.
Yeah.
And having a midlife crisis, I think.
Well, I was telling Katie, it's a little weird. Like, it's a little weird to be here, but it's not like, I don't feel like I have to go buy a new car or
not yet.
Go on a trip I've never gone on. Or
you might feel differently tomorrow.
Any of that. That's true. That's true. Yeah, we're not there yet, so it might be like one of those things. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I heard 40 is the new 30.
Yeah, sure.
If that makes you feel better.
I hope so. Yeah, let's just go backwards. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're older, but you're wiser. You're more mature, hopefully.
My hair turned 40 about 5 years ago.
Hey.
Yeah, it went on the white side. So. Anyway,
you could have been going gray at 20. It happens.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Count your blessings, Ray.
Yes. So, all right. Well, the purpose of this podcast is to coach and equip you to lead your best in discipleship. And so we hope to do just that today. We're going to be looking at the 8 Arenas tool. As we have kind of been walking through the past couple of weeks, we've been walking through kind of starting your group, the covenant, and then the hope is next week that we'll have somebody on that is currently in stories, so phase 1, sharing stories, working on confirming that. But we'll do another interview next week like we did with Jonathan on the covenant and kind of getting the group going. But thought today we could talk about the 8 Arenas tool and how the more and more I'm using this and hearing other people use it, it's a great transitional tool from moving from stories into transformation. And we may be a hair ahead of where we're walking through the pathway, but I think today will be a good one for us to kind of, it's like a great tool. More and more, I'm seeing that it's a great tool to start your abiding with your people, right? Does that make sense? So to kind of get that going. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so what is the 8 arenas of the 8 arenas?
Yeah. So when we think about arenas, the 8 arenas that we are talking about are really areas of your life that every person encounters. And then the question with this tool is, okay, if we have these arenas of our life, how does the Bible and how does Jesus address those arenas? And so those arenas that we have
I was going to say, do it without looking.
Yeah, well, I think I could get most of them, but I'm just going to be safe. I'm going to play it safe after we did the whole tool exercise a couple weeks ago. So, they're politics, faith, money, work, education, relationships, identity, and entertainment. So those are the 8 arenas. So we kind of all step into those on a regular basis, right? Just a couple days ago was the elections. So we stepped into politics, didn't we? Everybody did, whether you wanted to or not. Mm-hmm. And so there's these areas. So what the fun thing about this tool is that we can begin to use it in the way of stepping into these areas, seeing what Scripture says in relation to, again, our life and how we live our life. So. Okay. Yeah.
So how do you introduce this tool?
Yeah. So I think one of the great ways to introduce this is so you can do it a couple different ways. You can put Post-it notes up around your room, like those big Post-it notes that are massive, or you can take a piece of paper and you can pass that around the room as well with the topic at the top, right? So I would have a sheet up that says faith, a sheet up that says relationships. And then what I'm going to ask the people in my group to do is say, okay, and we're kind of hiding cards. We've talked about this in the last season, but I feel like it's something we need to talk about again. So you're kind of hiding the card of really Jesus should be your influence in all of these areas. But the question we're going to ask is, who is your greatest influence in these areas? Mm-hmm. And they're going to write it up. And I kind of like to bait my groups. That sounds terrible. But I will write my dad or somebody on like my relationship influence or my financial influence or Dave Ramsey or something like that, right? Yeah, kind of getting them thinking that way. But you'll be surprised how many people don't put Jesus or the Bible, right? Because we tend to think more these daily influences that we have.
Except those teacher pets.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, right. Sure. Like faith, most people hopefully write
Jesus. But, if you're honest with yourself, it's not always Jesus, and he's not always first.
Yes, exactly. So that's kind of the way to introduce it to the group. But then what gives us the opportunity here is we ask the question, okay, what happens if 2 of these things collide? In other words, if I have 2 influences in the area of money and they don't agree on what I need to do.
Oh.
Right? So let's say I have Dave Ramsey and my wife. Well, what if those 2 don't agree in how I'm supposed to do my finances? Where do I turn? Where do I go? Right?
Go to your wife.
So,
always the
wife. That would be the smart move, right? Yes. But what does Scripture say? And so the final straw that we pull out and kind of the cards that we show is that really Jesus should be our greatest influence in all of these areas. Scripture should be our greatest influence in all these areas. So when it comes down to Dave Ramsey or my wife, really the answer is not Dave Ramsey or my wife. The answer is what does Scripture say, right? And so that's kind of where we're drawing them to. Where this is getting, I think, more and more a tool we can use is I've kind of coined it a transitional tool. So what I mean by that is like if you don't know where to start with getting your group to abide, you need to bring out the 8 arena tool, because what that allows us to do is have everybody in the group search for scriptures in each of these 8 arenas. So that's kind of fun. And so what that does is it I'm putting this in quotations for those who are just listening, right? But like it forces the people in your group to abide. It forces them to go and seek those scriptures in that next week that go along with that particular area.
So do you do that during your group time, or do you do it outside of group?
So in our last group, as we did this tool, we did it as homework. So we would actually use the group time to talk about what we found the week before.
Okay. Do you do it one arena at a time?
Yes.
Okay.
Or at least we did. I'm not saying. So if you give the time that you need to each of the arenas, it probably gives you some time, if that makes sense. Or it's going to take more time than, you can't throw 2 into a group typically because you're talking through the scriptures. You're trying to figure out all those different things. So the way we used this tool was we taught the tool from the standpoint of write your influences on the paper, right? Then we took each of the subjects, put them in a hat, and drew it out of a hat so that it wasn't biased of like, oh, you're trying to point me one direction or the other, right? So we took it and pulled it out of a hat. I think our first one was relationships. So we went and everybody spent that week finding scripture on relationships. And so we broke it down into 2, relationships with one another and then relationships with a spouse. And so we kind of made it 2 different types of relationships. So they looked and found all the scriptures in those areas. We came back the next week. We talked about those. And then from there, we actually spent the time to go into kind of discussing a little bit about the marriage square. Like, we didn't reveal the marriage square, but we said, hey, guys, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a tool that goes with this particular arena that we're talking about.
Okay.
So where this gets fun is every one of those arenas, except for politics, pretty much, we have a tool that goes with that arena.
Oh. I don't think I even ever knew that.
Well,
or
and so
realized
that's
it.
kind of where it gets fun, right? Is like, hey, I have this arena, and now we're working through it. We found scripture, but then after that, if people are like, I still just don't feel comfortable with this, oh man, I've got the tool that we can talk about that arena, right? So, yeah,
So,
kind of fun.
you know, for those people who are very much rule followers,
Yes,
we normally don't pull out tools until
right.
phase 2,
That's true.
transformation phase.
That's
so
true.
What you're saying is it's okay to teach the tools during this.
Well, so again, this is kind of that transitional tool. So if we're moving out of stories,
Oh, okay.
we're starting to figure out abiding as a group, and we need something to abide in.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, hey, we're not maybe going to do one of the plans that are available or whatever. We want to start abiding in something. This is where you could go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so where does this play out? Because when we talk about abiding, we also have tools of like eat the word,
Yes.
the 7 arrows.
Yes.
So do you do those beforehand, or
Yeah.
where do those play in?
That's a great question. So
If this is a transitional one.
yeah. So a great way to do that is, okay, this week we're going to go look for every scripture that has to do with relationships. But what I'd love for you to do is take one or two that stands out that you found and work that through the 7 arrows.
So you have already
So-
taught the 7
Yes.
arrows and
Yes.
eat the word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. That was, yeah.
Cool. Man.
I get the question you're asking now. Yes. Yes. So we've talked about that. So again, we're turning the corner on our pathway.
Okay.
So
Man,
Yeah.
I'm getting, this is why I like having these conversations.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like I've said,
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to be writing a book for me,
oh,
giving me
Yeah.
all of these ideas that
That's right.
people do.
that's right. I forgot my Post-it note today. Sorry.
Because I
Yeah.
I don't think I would have thought of, how to expand it.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
some people like me probably don't know how to do that. They just
Right.
are very by the book. Okay, this is the arena.
Yeah.
Let's do the scriptures. But
Yeah.
where a lot of growth comes in is when you are able to expand on or marinate in
Yeah.
certain things. And I
Right.
think that would be helpful for new leaders
Yep.
is to know, like, okay, here are some things that you could do to like really sit in this for a little while, or
Yeah.
ask more questions, or get them to think a little bit more
Right.
on this topic.
Yes. Right.
So add that to your book.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. Yeah. And I think what's been fun about seeing this is that we've had the 8 Arenas tool for about a year and a half or so. So again, in the context, it's a new tool.
Yeah.
Because we have several tools we've had for 8-9 years. So it's a newer tool, but I think as we're continuing to use it, it's starting to grow and shape into this thing that is really a cool. If you start at the core, it kind of spider webs out into the rest of transformation, if that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, because
So
you're
it's-
talking about
yeah.
every single issue in your life can be taught in one of those arenas. So.
Right. And then what you've done with that tool is you've gone back to the core of Jesus is should be the core of all 8 arenas.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this is maybe how my mind works a little bit. Like it expands all the way out to the edge of the tools that we use for each area, but then it goes all the way into the depth of Jesus being in the center of it. Yeah, that needs to be a picture I draw out. But anyway, so
You just did with your hands.
Yeah, that's right, with my hands. Yeah. So those of you who are listening,
You
go
need
to our YouTube page.
One of
We'll
those
plug it.
those kids
Yeah.
balls that like
Oh,
expand.
that's
I
a way
don't know
to
what
think
it's
about
called.
it. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, though.
Welcome.
Yeah, you throw them up in the air and they get bigger and then they come back down. Yeah.
Ex-teacher, I can help with visual aids.
There you go. That's good. I like it. Yep.
Okay, so you mentioned that this is a fairly new tool
Yes.
for us
Yeah.
within the last year or so,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the other ones have been years.
Yeah.
Years. So how did we come to adopt this tool and why?
Yeah. So in full transparency, some of the tools we use are tools that are in other discipling plans and pathways, right? So this is one that we ourselves created here at New City. So yeah, so Pastor Matt and Charlie Blair were kind of talking through just the areas of life that people need Jesus. And the reality is that's all areas of life, right? But then they were having a conversation and kind of broke that down into these 8 kind of big headings, big categories. And so the idea was, okay, how could we teach people to think of Jesus as Lord in all of those areas? So we often talk about him being Lord of our life, but what are the areas of our life that we want him to be Lord of, right? And so in that, I think they began to play with that and come up with those 8 arenas. And so from there, when we implemented it, it started as its own tool. But then as we've, again, it's new, right? So as we've kind of been walking through it, and there's this reality that, man, this thing really can work in a way that moves you as in a group to a tool, right? So again, how is Jesus Lord of my identity? Well, we have an identity tool. How is Jesus Lord of my finances? We have a generosity tool. It really all kind of came to reality in one of our cohorts for church leaders. And so we were sitting there, and Price, actually, our Raytown campus pastor, was talking through it, and he was talking about these 8 arenas, and then he talked about all of our tools right after that, and it was like this aha moment of going, wait, all of our tools line up with these 8 arenas. And I don't know if Matt and Charlie did that intentionally, and I just never noticed it, or if it was just like this aha moment kind of for all of us of going, man, we have a tool that lines up with each of those areas. So that was kind of a fun revelation.
So as you were speaking, I kind of thought back to when I was in D group, because I didn't have this.
Yeah.
But you're talking about it stemming from like just the general concept of Jesus is Lord. And when I was in group, we had that concept taught as, hold on, let me see if Shema?
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Yeah, the Shema.
Yeah. As Jesus is Lord.
Yeah.
And we kind of did that already.
Okay.
Because I remember very specifically, like my group leaders writing out different areas.
Yeah.
Not all 8 of those, but just different areas that, maybe we as women were going through or moms or whatever. So, okay.
And the fun thing was it actually started as 7. It was the 7 areas.
What was the last one? What was the less important one?
Well, no, so we've added one, right? So we've added identity.
Oh my gosh.
Identity was not there. Yeah. So it was like this, and that came from like personal identity and different things like that. And so, yeah, but that was. I don't want to claim to be a trailblazer. Yeah. Which it's not me, but my group leaders had identity on Oh,
that.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
Good job.
Way to go. Gold star. A+. High five.
Okay. So if it's a kind of a transition tool and you are teaching it, let's see, if you are teaching them how to abide, but also yet kind of throwing in tools, I'm still trying to figure out how that looks.
Yeah.
Because like if you're throwing in the tools with it, you're almost halfway through transformation then at that point. And if you're doing one of the arenas per week, that's 2 months.
Yeah.
Out of the 8.
Yeah. Out of your timeline.
Minimum amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that could be a good chunk of your group, no?
Yeah. So I think there's 2 routes that you could kind of approach this with. So you could approach it in one way of we're going to use the 8 arenas tool. We're going to abide in the scriptures, find the scriptures for each of the identities or each of the arenas. And then from there, we're going to break that out and come back and teach tools for each of the 8 arenas. Does that make sense? The other method would be that I'm going to start with the 8 arenas as my first tool I teach. And then from there, that's going to be our framework for how we walk through each of the tools.
Oh.
So when I draw that first one out of the hat, that's what we're going to first. Does that make sense?
So then potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
So it could be, if it's a transitional tool, it's right
It's sitting
side
on
of the-
it's sitting on the end of the E in the abide benchmark. Yeah.
Okay, I kind of like that
Yeah.
structure as like doing it as you go into the tools because I like to plan things out.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
going from week to week, not really knowing what I'm doing, that
Sure.
kind of drives me crazy. So
Yeah.
if you're a planner like me,
Yep.
you could start your transformation period with that. And I
Right.
like what you said. Like first week could be just looking up scripture. Next week you could be talking it through or like diving in deeper or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next week it could be the tool.
Right. And you're going to probably spend a couple weeks on that. And then the next week, hey, we're going to draw another thing out of the hat.
Nice.
Right. And we're going to
But how do you
it again.
spend couple weeks on a tool?
Well, there might be, it's like,
Things that come out of it?
yes,
Okay.
right. So like,
So I'm
hey,
like,
man,
boy, I taught the tool in not a lot of time.
well, no, yeah. So if identity comes out of the hat, right,
Yeah.
and then we work through the scriptures, then we talk about it, and then hey, we're going to do the identity triangle, and then from the identity triangle, we realize, oh man, we got some identity issues in our group.
Yeah.
Then we're going to spend
Spend
time
some
walking
time.
through that instead of saying, okay, we got to move to the next arena.
Yeah.
We're going to just work through that as kind of our
Oh man.
template.
I like that structure.
Yeah, yeah. And again, that's beginning to just kind of develop, and we're beginning to see that. And so I hope that we don't confuse and muddy the waters a little bit for people, but it's like so let me put it like this. This may be the clarifying thing here. So if you get through stories and there's something obvious you need to jump into with your group,
Yeah.
right? Like let's say everybody comes in and everybody has like marriage problems.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do the marriage square first. Like
Okay.
that's the tool we're going to hit, and we're going to go with that first.
Mhm.
But if you're coming into the group and everybody shares their story and you're like, man, I just don't know really where to start, 8 arenas might be it.
Yeah.
Because then that's going to set you up with a little bit of a template of what we're going to hit first. And it's kind of random.
Yeah.
More so than you saying, I've identified this thing in my group we need to hit or go to first. So
All right.
that's where I say kind of a transitional tool to help you if you don't know what to do next in your group. Like
Yeah.
that can get some things rolling
Okay.
that would move you to a tool. Again, to use the cool phrase from earlier, as it spider webs out, you have an opportunity to kind of have this flow to a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really good for my brain to comprehend
Yeah.
because I'm, like I said, I'm very much a planner and
Sure.
like, I don't know, but also overthinker. And I'm like, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, where do I start?
Oh, you got it.
I know.
You do. You do.
I know. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that is helpful information for
Yeah.
a lot of people out there,
Right.
especially beginners who don't feel like they know
Yeah.
where to start or where to begin or any of that.
Yeah.
So as we kind of close this one up, this episode,
Yep.
if you are in this stage or if you've
Yeah.
just done this tool or about to do this tool and you have questions or comments or
Right.
practical things that you did with your group that, I could use, I could steal from you.
That we could put in the book.
Yes.
Yes.
The book that Ray, I don't think Ray is actually writing it for me, even though I'm 100% serious.
Oh. I guess I'll start on that. Sorry. Yeah.
Just go back through all the podcasts and be like, okay,
That's right.
Ray, that's what I need.
What did we talk about? Yeah.
So if you have any of those questions or comments or practices that you want to add, go email us at d3info@newcitychurch.com. Okay.
Boom. Nailed it.
I keep looking at you. I'm like, oh.
Yep. That's it. Nailed it.
Or, I always like having people talk to me about the podcast in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
So,
No
yeah.
shout outs this week, huh?
No shout outs, I
Oh,
guess.
gosh. Well,
So yeah, let us know and maybe we can clarify or
Yeah.
share with other people
Yeah.
about it.
again, a great tool to use in the middle of confusion, the middle of what do I do next, and just an opportunity for you to kind of move forward. So that's
Yeah.
the hope in today's podcast is, hey, if I'm stuck right now, here's something to think about. A
Yeah,
tool to
and
pull out.
that provides a lot of different areas. Like
Yeah.
you said, the spider web, it can just go anywhere.
Right. Yeah. So
Well,
also, don't forget about our YouTube page.
yeah, you
Right.
can't. How could you?
Yeah. So D3 Discipleship on YouTube. We'd love for you to subscribe. I think we crested the big 20 mark. So look at us. Yeah. I don't think you get like a button plaque for 20 people, but hey, We got more listeners on
I'll make you
podcasts than we do on YouTube, so that's okay. But yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
Is that it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanksgiving in 2 weeks, so we'll still have one more podcast. So we'll yeah. Anyway, okay.
Well, thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next time on the D3 Discipleship Podcast.
See ya.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that today's information was helpful and useful for your discipling journey. We would like to encourage you to subscribe, review, and share on social media. If you would like more information, check out d3pathway.com.